Andrew McCART, IFL TV in association with MTK Global. I'm once again delighted to be joined by my good friend all the way from New York City, David Diamante. David, first and foremost, I know we're going to talk boxing, but there's a big global pandemic that's going on at the moment. First of all, how are you? Are you safe and well? That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I'm doing okay. Unfortunately, lost some friends over this, and I know quite a few people that are fighting the battle now. So I got prayers going out to them, to all the people on the first line, to Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, and of course, Eddie Hearn's father, Barry, who had a mild heart attack over the weekend, and he's doing a lot better, but we're thinking about him. So it's a lot of people going through a tough time right now. So, obviously, thoughts and prayers going out with all of them.
Definitely, I echo that as well, David. Get well soon, Barry Hearn. But the reason why I've got you on this sort of Zoom Skype looking thing is because I do want to continue to talk boxing with you, because that's what we are. We're boxing men. We love the sport. It's our passion. It's our job. So first and foremost, how are you coping with it, not being able? Because I know you love traveling. You love seeing different places, cultures, and whatnot. So how are you coping with sort of like the lockdown at this moment in time?
For me personally, it's okay because, look, it's one of those things, obviously I'd rather be on the road working, doing what I do, but I've done so much travel over my life, and throughout my time, having some time to be at home and to reflect, to spend with family, to do some writing, to catch up on just stuff that I haven't been able to do in quite a while is actually really nice. I'm one of those guys. I never get bored. So I've always got stuff to do, and there's plenty to do. So I've been really busy throughout this whole lockdown, and there's tons of old great fights to see and old great fight movies. And if you're a boxing fan, there's still plenty of stuff that you can do to keep up with the sport, and to go back and to look at some other stuff that's happened in the past. So there's always, with the yin and the yang, with the darkness, there's always some light. So the way I look at it is it's like in judo. If someone comes at you, take that force and you use it for your benefit. And it's the same thing with this big negative coming at us. So we got to try to use that to our benefit and look at the good side in this.
Definitely. That's a good analogy there with the judo, man. I did like that. You mentioned there's some old fights to watch and go back and study the game. Like, what's your favourite fights to go back to study them? What is your favourite golden oldies, let's say?
Well, man, Andrew, there is a litany of fights that I like to watch. Sport spans a lot. So if you want to go back, to some of the classic ones, there's just so many great old fights. I mean, Rocky Marciano and Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, that's an absolute just barn burner of a fight. It was back in 1952, and it was the first time that Marciano got a chance at the title. He was undefeated, and he got floored in the first round by Walcott. And it was a hell of a fight. We all know that Marciano was undefeated, so you know what happens in the end, but you got to watch the fight. It's a great fight. And then there's all these these trilogies and these other matchups, like there's a great trilogy, one of the really early trilogies between Rocky Graziano and Tony Zale. And it's funny, it's like these fights, the first one was in 1946, and Rocky Graziano, he was a Brooklyn guy, but he was never the best fighter, but Tony Zale was. Tony Zale was a hell of a fighter. But Tony Zale was in the war, and he came out, and it was the right partners at the right time. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's what made that trilogy so good. And the first fight was just it was an incredible fight. It was at Yankee Stadium, and Zale won that fight by knockout. The second fight took place in Chicago. Now, that's closer to Zale's home turf of Gary, Indiana. And that was in 1947. And Graziano won that fight. And that's, it's like he won the middleweight championship. And that's where the famous term, he's like, hey, Ma, somebody up there likes me. That's where it's from. The third fight took place in Newark. It's not the best of the three. Honest with you, the first fight wasn't even filmed, so you have to read about it. The second fight, there's just a bit. The third fight was not the best. That's not the best watch, but it's great to go back and learn about those fights. There was another great war between two of the best featherweights of all time, Willie Pep and Sandy Sadler.
Willie Pep, yeah.
These guys, the will of the wisp, from Connecticut. The first time that they fought, just so you can understand how much of an incredible fighter Willie Pep was, his professional record was 134-1 with one draw going into this fight. He was 26 years old. Sandy Sadler was 22, okay? He was 22 years old. His record was 86 wins, 6 losses, 2 defeats, 57 knockouts, okay? Pep had 45 knockouts. And they used to say about Willie Pep, because he could move so incredibly. In fact, there's an old adage about Willie Pep. They say he's the only guy in history that ever won a round of boxing without ever throwing a punch. It was in 1946 against Jackie Graves, and supposedly he won the round on 2 of the 3 judges' scorecards without even throwing a punch because he moved so beautifully. They used to say you couldn't even hit him in the ass with a handful of rice. That's how he could just move so well. They fought 4 times, and those fights are incredible. 4 very tough fights. And the first fight, Pep, like I said, he has one loss out of 135 fights, 134-1-1. And he got dropped twice in the 3rd round, and he got stopped in the 4th, just to tell you how brutal that fight was. So the first and the second fight are amazing. You got to watch that series of fights. Very classic, very great. If you want to go to some fights that we all know, but maybe some of the newbies don't know, we all know about Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. The third fight, the Thrilla in Manila in 1975, this is a must-see heavyweight fight. It's really absolutely brutal, and it's a fight that every fight fan must see. You must know. You got to watch that fight. Just incredible. It was the fight of the year in 1975. And speaking of 1975, now we're getting a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
You got 2 middleweights from North Philly, Bad Benny Briscoe and Eugene Cyclone Hart. 2 of the toughest guys ever come out of North Philly, middleweights. I mean, this was a runner-up for Fight of the Year in 1975. You had over 11,000 in attendance. Russell Peltz was the promoter. Absolutely incredible fight. And, the era that I grew up watching boxing, there's just a ton of fights that I absolutely love and would suggest. So I came up during the 4 Kings. So Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Thomas Hearns, and Roberto Duran. Now, all these guys, they all fought each other, and they had incredible wars with all kinds of guys. Leonard and Hearns 1 is a fight that really must be seen. Just an absolutely incredible fight. It was in 1981. It was for the welterweight championship. Absolutely great fight. They called it the Showdown. It was at Caesar's Palace. Also, let's see, Marvin Hagler. Great fights. One fight that I particularly liked was against John the Beast. Crazy fight, 1986, Caesar's Palace. Hell of a fight. And going into that fight, Mugabe, 25 knockouts. I mean, Mugabe was a beast. And he was never the same after that fight. I mean, that you got to see. There's guys like Livingstone Bramble. He had a great fight. Obviously with Ray Mancini, but there's other fights that he had. Good fight with Tyrone Crawley. I love watching old Salvador Sanchez fights, and probably one of my favorite fights of his was against Danny. So Danny Lopez. This fight took place in 1980. It was for the featherweight of the world. Now you got to realize it's all about context, right, Andrew?
Yep.
So Danny Lopez going into this fight, he had 8 title defenses going in. Hold on, my battery's getting low here.
No worries, mate.
Wait, can you see me?
I can see you now. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. I can hear you fine.
Okay, great. So going into this fight, Danny Lopez was on top of the world. He was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and no one knew Salvador Sanchez. No one knew this guy. They thought he was going to get annihilated. And Danny Lopez, like, he was always a slow start. He had a great right hand, but he was a starter. So a lot of people in this fight thought that, you know, Sanchez was just going to get wiped up. But I'm telling you, watch a hell of a fight. And Sanchez, after that, he went on to have in less than 18 months. So he died in a car crash in 1982. But an incredible fighter. And his last fight was against Azuma Nelson. And it was, to me, I just, you know, Azuma Nelson, I think, is probably one of the best boxing champions ever to come off the continent of Africa. And that is a hell of a fight. Really one worth watching. You know, most people know about Aaron Pryor and Alexis Arguello. You know, that the 140-pound championship in 1982. But Arguello also had another really great fight against Rafael Limon at the Felt Forum in 1979. So that was a really good fight. You know, there was an era, one of my favorite eras of boxing to watch were the light heavyweights, okay? And I'm talking like the late 70s, early 80s, okay? And you had these great fighters, guys like Dwight Muhammad Kawi, Matt Muhammad, Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, Yaki Lopez, Marvin Johnson. You had Michael Spinks, Conti, of course, from Liverpool, Victor Galindez. There were all these great heavyweights, you know, even guys like the Davis twins or the Davis brothers. You had Mike Rossman. There was a bunch of these guys. One of the great fights from that era was it's called Pandemonium. And it was Evander Holyfield against Dwight Muhammad Kawi, 1986. And Kawi was called the Camden Buzzsaw. And, you know, this is a tough man. Just a hard man. And that's a hell of a fight. We all know about Holyfield, right? Mm-hmm. So just a really great fight. You know, there's a cool trilogy also with Vinny Pazienza, the Tasmanian Devil, the Pazman, and Greg Hogan. That's an interesting set of fights. You know, they're not the best, but they're good. Also, if you want to see like a cool fight to watch, if you want to see like early, like Mayweather, like his style, you can watch him, Vinny Pazienza against Roger Mayweather. And, you know, his nickname was the Black Mamba, like Kobe Bryant. And this was in '88. And super lightweight championship of the world. You know, Mills Lane was the ref. There was, you know, Vinny Pazienza brings it. Okay, so there's punching at bell, super heated, you know, and after the fight, there was just so much like vitriol. Like Lou Duva was in the corner, and he ran across and like he attacked Mayweather, and he got up and his cheek is all cut.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just real crazy. So that's a cool fight to watch. If you want to see a great welterweight fight, this is pretty cool. Simon Brown and Tyrone Trice. So Simon Brown was known as Mantequilla. Tyrone Trice was known as the Butterfly. This is a fight. And, man, the 12th round, insane in that fight. You really insane. Like, that's a fight to watch. That's a fight to watch. That fight to
what's that fight? Let's talk about what's that fight. So give me that fight there that's to watch. You say the names again, just so I'm sort of like I want to go and watch old school.
Simon Brown and Tyrone Trice.
Simon Brown and Tyrone Trice.
You know, referee Steve Smoger?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah.
That was his first title fight.
Oh, really?
That was his first title fight.
He's a good ref, Steve. I like Steve.
Yeah, very good ref. And you know, everyone knows Ben and Eubank. You got Ben and Michael Watson's a great fight. Speaking of Mantequilla, you know, it's funny. Jose Napoles is the Mexican-Cuban fighter. And he was Cuban, but he lived in Mexico. And there's a fight that I really love. but most people don't. But I do, because I know the guy that he fought that beat him. It was Billy Backus, and it was Carmen Basilio's cousin. He's from Canastota, and he won the welterweight championship of the world off of Montequilla, Jose Napoles. And that's Jose Napoles was an incredible fighter. So that's definitely one that you could watch. You know, I guess if we want to start talking about stuff more in the modern era, the Gaddy Ward trilogy is obviously incredible. Gaddy Ward 1 is incredible. It's a must-see fight. I mean, must-see.
I think everyone's seen that fight. Surely, if you're a boxing fan, you must have seen that fight.
Well, you know, so I don't want to talk about fights that I think everyone knows, because those are pretty obvious. I mean, Castillo Corrales and Arguello Pryor, we all know those are kind of good. But like Mickey Ward had a really great fight against Emmanuel Burton Augustus, absolute war in 2001. Gaddy had a great series of fights against Ivan Robinson. That should be watched. Ivan Mighty Robinson, tough Philly fighter. And, you know, everyone likes how I do the double name. Mark Biro is the announcer, and you could hear him call the names twice. You know,
did you get that from him, David? Did you get that from him, or did you?
I got it from Ed Darien.
Oh, Darien.
Ed Darien and Johnny Addy. And Gaddy also had a great fight with Gabriel Ruelas. That's a great fight. Junior lightweight championship of the world, 1997. That should be watched. Let's see what else. Obviously, if you haven't seen the Prince Nassim Hamed Kevin Kelly, you got to watch that. But I think most people probably seen that. I would say you have to watch the Marquez Vasquez trilogy. You have to. Eric Morales Pacquiao 1 is a great fight. That's a great fight. Okay, that is a great fight. Super featherweight championship of the world. Filipino versus Mexican. I mean, that's a hell of a fight. Paulie Ayala versus Johnny Tapia, the first one. That's a war. You got to watch that fight. That's a war. Johnny Tapia, you should know. You should watch those fights. Let's see what else. Brandon Rios and Mike Alvarado 1.
Yes, man. That's gone maybe back 6-7 years, maybe, if that.
2012. Yeah, it happened in Carson, California. That was just a slugfest, straight slugfest. I didn't think the other fights lived up to the first one, but that first one was great. You know, a fight I really loved, and it's a fight that he lost, but it's probably my favorite Amir Khan fight, was this fight against Lamont Peterson. I loved that fight. I thought that was a great fight.
I stayed up for that fight. I think that was in Washington, D.C. I think I stayed up for that fight.
It was definitely in Washington, D.C. That was a great fight. Really enjoyed that. And, you know, another really great fight was Timothy Bradley and Ruslan Provodnikov.
Yes.
Oh, that's an incredible fight.
Those last 2 rounds,
that fight, that was, you know, Bradley had come off the victory of Pacquiao, which everyone thought he had lost. But he had, you know, the judges gave it to him. But sometimes it's funny, like, you can actually lose with a win, or you can win with a loss. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Makes sense to you?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
For example, Paulie Malignaggi losing to Miguel Cotto, that was an incredible win for him, because he showed so much heart and guts. I mean, he had a broken orbital bone. He fought he lost that fight, but he won. His stock rose. And the fight with Bradley against Pacquiao, he won that fight, but he actually lost. And so he came back, and he really wanted to prove himself. And so he just went super hard against Provodnikov, went toe. I mean, he has exceptional boxing skills. I don't want to say exceptional. He's very good boxing skills. He didn't need to stand toe-to-toe, but yet he did. Kind of similar to with the Amir Khan-Peterson fight. You know, Amir Khan is a stellar boxer. He didn't have to go toe-to-toe with Peterson, but he just said, you know, he stayed and he slugged it out. He lost the fight, but in my eyes, that was a win for him. I thought that was a great fight. That was a great fight. You know what fight I liked? You know what fight I really liked? And 2007, Joe Calzaghe and Mikhail Kessler. I really liked that fight. I mean, you know, both guys undefeated. Mikhail Kessler at the time, you got to remember, like, he was scary, man. 39-0, 29 knockouts. He was a really tough fighter, and Calzaghe just handled him, you know. And I mean, you know, he did that to Jeff Lacey, but I mean, that win against Kessler, I thought really I was very impressed with that fight. I was very impressed with that win. You know, I would also say you got to watch all these De La Hoya fights. You got to watch the Fernando Vargas fights. You got to watch the Felix Trinidad fights. You know, you got Fernando Vargas against Winky Wright. You got Felix Trinidad against Fernando Vargas. Great fight. Anytime you got Mexico v Puerto Rico, it's usually a great matchup. A really great fight that I was at was Trinidad and Mayorga. That was a hell of a fight. That's when Mayorga gave him his chin, you know, and Trinidad took it. Trinidad De La Hoya, you got to watch that fight and tell me who you think won the fight. You know, Frampton Santa Cruz, that's a great one, you know. Let's see. You know, there's a great trilogy of fights with Roberto Duran and Esteban de Jesus. And
I love Roberto Duran. He's my favorite fighter. Even though he beat Ken Buchanan illegally, I love Roberto Duran. He's my favorite fighter of all time.
Well, that Ken Buchanan fight's a really interesting one too. That people should watch and see what they think happened there. I mean, to me, it looks kind of obvious, but it's happened pretty quick, and the film's a little old.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't
know
know
what I'm going to say, right? You know what I think. You know what I'm going to say.
Of course. But yo, Duran had a trilogy of fights. This is a great, not just a great trilogy of fights, but it's a great story that I think people should know. There was a guy named Esteban de Jesus, Puerto Rican fighter. They first fought in 1972, okay? And this was at the Garden. It was Roberto Duran's first loss, okay? So you got Panama v. Puerto Rico, two very macho fighters going head-to-head, and Roberto Duran lost the fight. A lot of people thought that Duran he lost sight because he was partying. You know, he was on top of the world. He was a crazy man. So he was doing all kinds of stuff. So they went ahead and had a rematch in 1974. This time they did it down in Panama. So this time, you know, Duran was not going to be denied, and he won that fight. So he won fight 2. Okay, fine. Now they set up the trilogy. You know, you can't have just 1 and 1. You can't have that. You got to have a rubber match now. The third one that they set up for 4 years later in 1978 was Caesar's Palace. This was a massive fight, and there was a lot of back and forth about it. And this was actually. I mean, a lot of people say Roberto Duran was probably the best lightweight of all time, and I'm not going to deny that. I'm really not. But this was his very last fight at lightweight, and it's a really interesting fight that should be watched. That trilogy. But let me tell you the story though, because this is very interesting. Duran won the fight. De Jesus went back to Puerto Rico. He actually murdered a guy. Okay, he killed a guy, and he got put in prison. And he was also an IV drug user, and him and his brother, they used to share needles, and his brother came down with HIV, as did he. Now, you've got to remember, back in the day, people didn't really know a lot about HIV and AIDS, and a lot of people thought maybe you could get it from hugging someone, or they weren't really sure. Mm-hmm. And at the time, there was a lot of hatred between the Puerto Rican fans and Duran because, you know, Duran beat their man. De Jesus was from Carolina, Puerto Rico. So De Jesus is locked up in prison for murder. He comes down very, very sick with AIDS, and, you know, he's going to die. And so the government decides, you know, let him die at home. So they let him out of prison. He's in his house. He's very sick. And Roberto Duran went all the way to Puerto Rico to console him and to be with him. And he hugged him, and that right there, the whole, like, Puerto Rico, they just embraced Roberto Duran after that. And they've always had love for him after that. I love
Roberto Duran so much, man. He just, not just his fighting style, but like that story you just said there, that's one of the major reasons why I love the guy, man. He's just cool. I'm going to say it, cool motherfucker. I do like the guy.
He is a cool motherfucker. You know, I got to spend time with him down at his house in Panama. Wow. And many years ago, I went down to Panama and I hung out with him at his house and at his bar. He had a bar. Like me, I had a bar in Brooklyn, but he had a bar in Panama City. And it was really cool, man. I hung out with his wife and his brother and, like, the whole gang, man. It was super cool. And then I've seen him many, many times since, but but it was really great to hang with him down in Panama. He was a great champion. I mean, all those four kings, obviously Hearns and Leonard and Duran and Hagler, they were incredible, and just those are some great fights. I mean, look, I also think there's a lot of sometimes you get some fights that are just kind of club fights that are also really good. I'll give you a good one that I called. This was on ESPN years ago. It was a hell of a fight. It was Pavel Wallach and Delvin Rodriguez, and they fought twice, but the first one is the one to watch. It was at the Roseland Ballroom, which is now gone, but that was a hell of a fight. Yo, I don't know if you ever seen Hasim Rockman with that big hematoma on his head, or Fernando Rodriguez. Well, Pavel Wallach had one. I mean, it looked like a grapefruit, man. It was like a big baseball on his head. It was crazy. That's a crazy fight. That was a good fight. You should watch. That actually became the ESPN Fight of the Year. We had some really good fights just this past year that were club fights. Kind of like that Felix Cash Jack Cullen fight. I thought that was a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed it. I really loved Lewis Ritson and Robbie Davies Jr. in Newcastle. I thought that was a great fight. And I loved Scott Fitzgerald and Anthony Fowler. I thought that was a hell of a fight too. I mean, again, these are more on the club level or regional level, but man, those guys, to me, a great fight is a great fight. You got to have the right dance partner, man.
Exactly.
You're without the right dance partner. It takes two to tango, so you got to have the right partner. So, yeah, that's the list right there.
But that was some list, man. I'm gonna have to go through this again, watch it. I've got a busy week coming up to watch all these fights. As always, you know everything about boxing, David. You're very knowledgeable and stuff like that. But I kind of want to talk now. Like we've had some big fights that are now postponed and whatnot because of what's going on in the world. The Povetkin and White and Usyk and Chisora, and now it's like Joshua Pulev. These are the big heavyweight fights that we've got. I suppose, what fights are you most likely and hoping to see happen sooner rather than later that have been cancelled, so to speak? You did have a good club fight, as you say, between Regis Prograis and Maurice Hooker lined up in April there. Well, I think it was next week. So what fights are you hoping to see sooner rather than later?
Well, I mean, if you look at the divisions in boxing and we start from the top down, there are an absolute ton of great fights to be made. First of all, I think that some of these fights are still going to happen. I mean, Matchroom has been putting together some really great fights. I mean, obviously we had the Hooker Prograis fight that got postponed. We definitely want to see that. We really want to see the AJ Pulev. We want to see, Dillian White and Povetkin. We want to see Chisora and Usyk. Obviously, we'd like to get Fury and Wilder going so that we can hopefully get Fury Joshua. Those are absolutely fights that we want to see. I mean, Joseph Parker's still in there too, so we can't forget about him. As far as the cruiserweights, I think Dorticos and Briedis are supposed to mix it up, which should be really nice. And also, I think also like we got a Coley coming up for a title fight, which would be really nice. If we talk about 175, like, man, there's a ton of great fights to be made there with Beterbiev and Bivol. And, Bivol's calling out Alvarez now. Obviously, Alexander Vosdik. You still got Kovalev out there, John Pascal, later Alvarez. There's some good fighters. I mean, Badu Jack, Marcus Brown.
Boatsi there's as well at the 175, Joshua Boatsi. And
oh my God,
these guys, yeah.
Boatsi, you got Joe Smith Jr.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a lot of guys that really. Oh man, my battery. Hold on.
I got you. I can still see.
Can you hear me?
I can still hear and see you, man.
Okay, good. Sorry. Yeah. So those are all like mix and match. I mean, go do what you want. I want to see all those fights. Super middle. Obviously, we've got. I don't know if this fight's going to happen now with BJ Saunders and Canelo, but obviously if that fight happens, I want to see it. But you still, there's Callum Smith and David Benavidez is out there. I don't know if those guys will mix it up. Caleb Plant is a really good fighter, sweet hands. there's just different guys.
Danny Jacobs is in the mix now, former world champion. He's moved up to 168.
Well, that's right. And also don't forget about John Ryder, right? Because he had that really great performance against Callum Smith. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. So that's really great. And then even, at middleweight right there with Demetrius Andrade, Triple G, what's up with Derevyanchenko? Sergey Derevyanchenko after that really nice fight against Triple G, Jamal Charlo. There's Matt Korobov, there's Jaime Munguia. Even Chris Eubank Jr. is, trying to talk his way into the fight with Canelo now. So I think there's a lot of good fights to be made there. Super welter, you got Julian Williams, you got Jared Hurd. Let's see, Arislandi Laura's there.
Yeah.
Liam Smith. And they might do that. That's a fight I want to see. The Liam Smith and Kell Brook.
Yeah.
I would like to see that fight. I think that would be a good fight. I mean, if they're not going to make the Amir Khan fight, I would like to see that fight.
It makes sense as well. I mean, they're both with Eddie Hearn. The Amir Khan fight's been talked about for 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now. It doesn't seem to be any closer than it was back then. So the Kell Brook and Liam Smith fight makes sense. And I don't know if you can sort of get it for a mining title or ranking title, because 154-pound division, they're playing hot potato with these titles before this stuff happened in the world. Everyone was passing the titles around. One champion was losing, new champion here. This guy was losing the belt. This guy was losing the belt, passing it to this guy. So 154-pound division could be maybe the most exciting. Look, you got a little British mug there. Your little British mug.
I got the Union. I do. I've got the Union Jack. Yes, I do.
You're good, man.
I got to support my man Boris. I hope he gets better, man. I'm really pulling for the Prime Minister, and hope everything goes well.
Well said, definitely, David, definitely. So you're breaking down all the sort of divisions there. Like, what is I said the 154-pound division is probably the most exciting division, maybe because of the way the titles are getting passed around through everybody. Everybody's sort of like having a title every now and again. What do you think is the most exciting division this moment in time?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that so quick, man. I mean, because there's so many great divisions out there. I mean, we just talked about the light heavies. There were some great fighters there. Dude, what about welterweight? I mean, you still got Errol Spence. You still got Terrence Crawford. You still got Manny Pacquiao. Still got Sean Porter. Still got Thurman. Still got Danny Garcia. There's a lot of guys in that division that really want to mix it up. And don't also about Mikey Garcia. Like, he's still campaigning at 147. So, and then 140 has got to be one of the hottest. I mean, Jose Ramirez and Josh Taylor, I'd love to see them meet. I can't wait for Regis Prograis and Maurice Hooker. That, to me, is just a hell of a fight, okay? And to me, I think it only even gets better below that. So if you go to 135, if you go to lightweight, I mean, this is like, you talk about shark-filled waters. I mean, you got Lomachenko, Teofimo Lopez, you got Luke Campbell, Devin Haney,
Ryan Garcia. If he's,
say it again?
Ryan Garcia. Like he's been asking for fights with these guys, Devin Haney.
I see Ryan Garcia in there too. I mean, I'm not sure. We'll see. I mean, yes, Ryan Garcia is a rising star, and I think it's going to be time to throw him in there into some deeper water pretty soon and see what he's up against. I mean, Teofimo Lopez is trying to do it with the Lomachenko fight. Hopefully that fight happens. Lee Selby, he's still there, and we were supposed to do that fight with him in Wales. I hope we still get to go back to Cardiff to do that. But, I mean, if we move down to 130, though, okay, you got Burchelt. And then you just had Jojo Diaz beat Tevin Farmer. Okay, you got Jamel Herring trying to fight Carl Frampton, right? There's Leo Santa Cruz, and the featherweights are crazy. That's a great division, man. I mean, Josh Warrington and Kid Galahad alone, right there. I love it. Okay, Shakur Stevenson is got to be one of the hottest young talents right now. He's in that division. Gary Russell Jr., his hands, you know how fast his hands are? And not just that, he's a hell of a fighter. Gary Russell Jr. is a hell of a fighter. That's a
Mick Conlon. Mick Conlon, I'm wearing his t-shirt right now. Mick Conlon's in that division.
I don't know if he wants to mix it up with those guys, but we'll see, you know. But either way, I mean, you know, and then let's say Super Bantam, okay? Dude, there's, I mean, we just had that barn-burning fight with Murajan Akhmadaliev, okay? And
what a fighter.
What
a fighter, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, great fighter. You got Emmanuel Navarrete, Ray Vargas. You know, there's a lot of, you know, even Isaac Dogbe, maybe not the best, but he's had some great fights. There's just some really great, and then hold on, you know what's maybe even a better division?
I'm going to answer this for you. Bantamweight, Anui, Casimiro.
Superfly.
All right. I was just thinking about Anui and Casimiro fight because that was one fight I was looking forward to in April.
Oh, I can't wait to see. You know, after that Donaire fight with Inoue, that was an incredible fight. But you know, one thing I want to say about that fight, if you watch that fight, I watched this and I couldn't believe like nobody talked about this. There was just so little head movement. And right there to be hit, I was like, yeah. I mean, but that was a war.
That's fun for us, though. That's fun for us watching. That's fun for the fans. If there's no head movement, it's for the fans, you know.
That was a hell of a fight. But the Superflies are popping off right now. Okay, Chocolatito just took the title off Cal Yafai. You got SSR, Streets of Katsorong B-side. We got Juan Francisco Estrada. I mean, come on, man. Like, you know, Jerwin and Cajas. Like, there's so many great fighters in that division. I just feel like the Superflies are on fire also. There's a lot of great divisions right now. So I think boxing's in a great place. We need to whip this virus. We got to flatten the curve, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to get back to business, man.
Yeah, I agree with you. So let's talk about getting back to business then. Obviously, these big mega fights and big mega shows have sort of like been postponed, cancelled or whatnot, like the AJ Pula, the White, like I just mentioned, them 3 heavyweight fights that was due April, May and June. Obviously, it looks like shows might happen in July, August time, end of the summer. Do you think we're going to start cramming all these fights in and maybe there'll be a show every week, or we're just going to see...
I hope.
Yeah, so do I.
I hope.
Or do
I don't know, man. I mean, you know me. I just want to work. You know, I just want to go. So I'm one of those guys. I'm happy. You know, all the time. I hate to sound corny, but I really am. If it rains, I'm happy. If it snows, I'm happy. If it's sunny, I'm happy. If I'm at home, I'm happy. If I'm on the road, I'm happy. I just try to be happy, man. I'm happy to be alive, and I'm having a lot of fun at this party we call life, and you know, I'm just excited for whatever's to come. So, you know, but I know that right now there's a lot of people that are, like I said, that are sick, and these first responders, these people on the lines, man, the nurses, the doctors, the policemen, the firemen, the bus drivers, the taxi drivers, the people working at the grocery stores, like these people are really putting themselves in harm's way. We got to take our hats off to them, treat those people right. Please realize they're doing a very hard job in a very tough time. And we're going to get through this. You know, we're going to, you know, they say tough times don't last, but tough people do. So it's time to get tough, and it's time to look after each other and follow the rules of the doctors and the scientists and do what they say so we can get back to business, man. You know?
I agree with you 100%, David. It's a weird time. It's a strange time that we're living in at this moment in time with being locked down and not being able to leave your house. Like you said, I miss talking face to face. I miss finding the great spot for us to get our backdrop. I miss the planes. I miss the arenas, the fans. I miss everything. Staying in the airport for 5 hours. I miss it all. But it's things you take for granted when you're in a situation like this, isn't it? They're just the little things. But it's also good because there's more family time. I'm spending a lot more time with my son now, which is a blessing in that sense.
That is a beautiful thing. I mean, to be honest, no, it's stuff that I don't take for granted because, you know, I have perspective. You know, I'm a little bit older and I've been through a lot of stuff. And so I appreciate what I have. And that's why I appreciate this time now, you know, because I love being able to be at home. Like I said, I love being on the road, but I love being home. You know, I always tell my girl that. I said, I love leaving. I said, I love coming home. So I love it all, man. I really do. It's great to be in New York, and it's great to be here. You know, obviously New York City is going through a really hard time right now. You know, I know several people that have passed, and that's very sad. Obviously, we've lost some people here in the boxing world too, and so it's a little bit tough. But we just got to take care of each other and really try to stay safe. That's the best thing we can do, because this virus seems very tricky. You know.
Definitely. Well, one thing I want to talk about as well, David, would get your opinion on Dana White and the private island to stage fights. First of all, two parts to this question. What's your thoughts on Dana White doing that in the first place? And can you see sort of like promoters in the boxing world following suit to put on fights like that on a private island and whatnot?
You know, again, I'm not really sure. I would leave all that stuff up to the governing bodies. I mean, again, like, if the British Boxing Board of Control says it's a no-go, it's a no-go. If the commissions here in America say no-go, it's a no-go. But if there's doctors that are saying it's okay, and they all say it's okay, like, you know, I'm going to be there. I don't really have I mean, look, I appreciate that he's trying to give the fans some sport, you know, and we need that at this time. But at the same time, you got to remember, like, if somebody gets hurt and has to go to the doctor, they might be taking up a hospital bed of you know, of somebody's grandma or father or brother or sister that didn't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? They might have caught this virus. It wasn't their choice. So you got to be very responsible, and you got to be very careful with that. But again, you know, it's not up to me. If they think it's okay, then it's okay. I like these guys are put in these positions because they know what's best.
Definitely. You were an NBA ring announcer for the Brooklyn Nets and stuff like that. What's happening with the NBA season? I know it's an off boxing topic and what we normally talk about, but are they going to cancel the sort of NBA season? Is that what they're planning?
I think they're still working on it right now. I think they're looking at doing a way where they can do these quick tests on players. And they were talking about having them without the arenas, just having the players so that they could get, you know, what is it called, tested quickly. But who knows if that's going to work or not? I don't know. But, you know, the NBA is a massive machine. You know, it's not just about the players, but it's about the ticket sellers and the popcorn guy and the guy in the parking lot that sells this. You know, there's a lot of the merchandise. There's a massive machine, all the restaurants, and there's a lot of people make their money off it. So it's a big deal. But I think that, again, you've got a really great commissioner. Silver is very, very smart. You took over for Daniel Stern, or David Stern, pardon me, David Stern. And those guys are top notch. They're very smart men, caring guys. And I think just like DAZN, Matchroom, and Sky, it's the number one priority is going to be the health of the fighters and the employees and the spectators.
Definitely. Finally, before I let you go, David, what are you hoping for this year? What are you hoping? Obviously, first and foremost, the health and well-being of everyone is obviously in the forefront of our minds at the time. But in a boxing sense, what are you hoping for this year for 2020?
Yeah, like you said, first of all, everybody for sure. I hope we get out of this well, and again, this is not just necessarily about physical health, but economic fallout of all this is very difficult for a lot of people. And there's a lot of kids that they can't go to school, and maybe they get their meals at school, and it's very difficult for a lot of people. So, like I said, I can try to help some people out in any type of way. I think that's a good thing to do. But as far as boxing, look, I hope that this thing gets squelched. I hope we come out with a vaccine or a cure or whatever they do. You know, again, you know, I'm not a scientist. I just play one on TV. But if they come out with that and they can stop this thing, and then we can just get back to business at hand. And man, let's get these fights. You know, let's get it crack-a-lacking. You know, let's get it popping. You know, right now I'm just chilling, trying to make $1 million. I'm trying to do my thing. I mean, I want the fights to pop off again. There's just too many good. I mean, all those names that we just talked about, all those divisions, you can't. There's no way you can pick what's the best division. I mean, the heavyweights are on fire. The light heavyweights, they're all on fire. We just went through it. I mean, it's shark-filled waters. There's so many, great dudes out there, and women too. A lot of great women fighters. Mm-hmm. And we just want to get these fights going. So that's what I hope for. Let's get it popping.
Definitely. Again, on a selfish point of view, I'm the same as you. I just want to get going again. I want to just get on the road. I want to get seeing everybody. I know what, I actually miss cooking. You know what? This is how much this is killing me. I actually miss cooking.
Now I know you've been in quarantine too long.
Exactly, bro. I would have said
I missed the whole crew. Shout out to Coogan and shout out to the whole IFL crew and MTK and of course Matchroom and the whole Sky crew and our sturdy team and everybody. Mike Goodall, Mike Goodall, love Mike. Hope you're doing well, buddy. The hardest working man boxing.
You're the second hardest working man, right?
Yeah, I'm the second hardest working man. No, I mean, I miss the gang, man. I really do. I miss everybody, and I really hope that Barry Hearn is doing well. I'm really thinking about him, and I'm really up this morning. I saw that a message to Eddie, and I said a prayer, and Barry is tops. I mean, just tops. I don't need to say that. We all know that, but he really is the cream of the crop. There's like him, and we need him to get better. And I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's better now, but I just want him to be okay. And I hope we get through this, man. This is a tough time for people. So, like I said, the cliche thing that I say, but it's very true. Tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Definitely. Again, I echo that. David, as always, it's an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting your thoughts on boxing, man. You gave us a whole list of fights that we can go back and watch. I think every week, man, I'm going to just go on YouTube right now and just find these fights that you just mentioned before I even upload this interview. I want to go and watch these fights. So you might not see this interview for a couple of days, mate. I promise you. No, but David, I honestly hope that you stay safe, brother. I know that New York's going through a hard time. I've seen it in the news, but I hope that you're safe, you're well, everyone in your family's well, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again, my man. Hopefully, it's not too far in the future, and we can see each other soon.
Yeah, and appreciate you too, and please stay safe also, and hopefully the thing subsides soon, and we're back in action.
Definitely.
The fight starts now.